let me begin by saying, welcome. Thank you for coming out tonight. Okay, the other two gentlemen have been here for every meeting we've had. I guess this is your first budget meeting tonight. So, how we'll work it is, Ms. Gershio will give the presentation. After the presentation, you have a question, please come up to the mic, state your name and address, and ask the question, and we'll see if we can give you an answer. We will give you an answer, but we're not sure we can give it tonight, depending on what the question is. So, with that said, Ms. Gershio, it's all yours.
Well, welcome to our second budget workshop meeting. The agenda this evening will be very similar to the previous meeting. We'll talk a little bit about the timeline involved in the budget process. We'll talk about the two components of any budget, and that's the expenditures and the revenues. Give you some information about the state aid history in Roselle Park. Very important to everyone what the tax impact will be and what this particular budget would mean, pros and cons for the school district. We'll also mention some ideas that the superintendent and the administration has with regard to future planning. And then at the very end, we'll take questions and answers. Budget process is a very long process. The administration actually begins the budget process back in December. And at that point in time, December 2nd, we had our first board budget finance committee meeting. At that point in time, I work in the business office gathering details with regard to salaries, health benefit costs, the various building principals put together their individual budgets. All of the information is then compiled together to create from a zero-based budget to the current budget proposed. We reconvened the Finance Committee February 23rd. At that point in time, we had a better idea of what the actual budget would look like. On February 24th, Governor Christie gave his budget address, and it's only at that point in time that state aid figures actually get released. Once those state aid figures were released on February 26th, we reconvened one more time with the Finance Committee to get an idea of what our state aid figures would be, which is a very important part of our revenue. We reconvened a week later to finalize our proposal because the budget was actually adopted, the tentative budget, at the following March 17th board meeting. At that point in time, budget documents must go to the county office for review. We had our first budget workshop meeting on April 1st. Attendance was very sparse. But we had some good questions and some good input from the people in the audience. On April 17th, here's a new piece of information. We received full county approval from both the county business administrator and the county superintendent. Tonight, we're having our second budget workshop. And on April 28th, at our board meeting, we'll have our official public hearing. We will then look to adopt our final budget on May 12th at that board meeting, because by law, the last day that a school district may adopt a budget is May 14th. So that gives us a lot of time to receive input from the community before we present to the board for official vote our budget. quick glance at expenditures through this pie graph, you can see that the overwhelming portion of any school budget would be the salaries of your staff and the health benefits and dental benefits that go along with that. The other portions to your budget are relatively small in comparison. In fact, the majority of them are so small that you can't even fit them on this pie graph to be laid. The next slide gives you comparison of expenditures in the last few budgets, starting with the year 12-13, up through and including our tentative budget for 15-16. And again, in this list, you can see the overwhelming complexity of the costs of salaries, health and dental insurance. That's $26 million out of a $33 million budget. When you look at that particular chart and compare prices across the years, you'll see many of those items have stayed relatively stagnant. The only ones that have increased are the ones highlighted here. Your salaries, of course, go up each year with an increase due to contracts that have been settled or could possibly be settled in the future. Health and dental benefits, unfortunately, the cost of those continually increase. Our broker gave us an initial estimate of 12%. We're hoping that as he shops around for us, that we get some good competitive quotes that hopefully bring that in a little bit lower. That would be a bonus to the district. Out-of-district tuition is going up. We have received some new students into the district with special needs, and those students will be sent out for tuition. And unfortunately, those tuitions can be in the range of $100,000 per student. Our contracted services line is also increasing because we're looking to do an efficiency study. Some of you have been at recent board meetings, saw a presentation by DeCara and Rubino, who the board is considering employing with contract to do that efficiency study for us, to give us some ideas how we can better use our facilities, how we could possibly save money in the future with some changes. And the last item that has increased are educational supplies.
About the new students out of this. Is that a definitive number? Because that could change throughout the year. So are we projecting like, are we adding a couple of students like in the projection beyond what we have currently? Is that what we're
The
doing?
answer to that, Alex, is that it's actually a combination of both things you mentioned. We know that we have some students through the early intervention process aging into the requirements by law, which means they're reaching the age of 3
Right.
with severe special needs. So we know when those children reach the age of 3, we must provide education for them, and therefore we will be sending them out. And yes, your other point is also correct. You never know who's going to move into Roselle Park in the next few months. So that would also be a possibility.
But just so the audience understands that we do not add 2 children, 3 children, because in fact, you mentioned that it could cost up to $100,000. So that means if we ever did that, and we said 2 students, that's $200,000 that we'd be putting in here, and we're not. We
Yes.
only, as you said, Mr. Garcia, is that anybody who is already in the school district itself, that we know that's gonna turn a certain age, that we might have to send them out, we are budgeting for that particular student. No other students, because we think they might move into Roselle Park, no. We don't
If you
do
go,
that.
I just went back a couple slides where the 4 years are listed. You'll see the increase from the current year, 14-15, to next year, 15-16, is an increase of about $60,000. So it's that 3-year-old
Right.
that we know will be going out of district next year.
I just didn't want anybody to think that we might be adding students on here that we don't
There's
even
no
know about.
cushion
And
built
for a
in
cushion,
there.
and it's not true, because,
Yeah, I want to be sure we are. Yeah.
well, no, but I mean, yeah, I'm just making sure, because what you asked is, that we don't do that, but we do not do that. That's strictly something we don't do.
Which then brings us to the other side of the picture, expenditures. We must have matching revenues. Here you see a comparison of the current year, 14-15, to what we're proposing for 15-16. The tuition that we've been taking in has gone down slightly. Most likely that's due to the fact that most school districts are now creating programs in their own district because they know that that is a way to save money. So some other districts that previously sent their students to Roselle Park for our special programs are no longer doing so because now they have a similar program at their school district. Many of the items have relatively stayed the same. All of your state aid figures are exactly the same, not $1 more, not $1 less. So therefore, to create the revenue side to match the expenditure side does mean an increase in the local tax levy. A relatively large increase in the local tax levy, and you will see how that was developed. The law allows the school district to take the previous tax levy. They give us an adjusted figure due to enrollment increases. If you remember, Roselle Park recently went from half-day kindergarten to full-day kindergarten. As a result, the number of students now registered at the kindergarten level in Roselle Park has increased quite a bit. In the past, there were working parents who sent their children to private schools full day to accommodate their working conditions. Well, now that Roselle Park has full-day kindergarten, they're no longer doing that. They're sending them to our schools. So our enrollment at the kindergarten level has increased by about 40 students. So the state is recognizing that, and they gave us an adjustment for enrollment, which gets factored into that figure that they give us, that $19.6 million figure.
Susan, I'm just going to put it, no, because residents asking, as you know, even from when Design Collaborative did the study, back in '98 and stuff, I mean, the enrollment projection they provided, our net enrollment hasn't really increased. So this is based upon the kindergarten enrollment. Because people have told me they don't understand. I mean, we're hovering around 2,000 students in the district. This is based upon the kindergarten costs and the enrollment.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, enrollment currently is 2,000, but a couple of years ago, it was only like 1,940. It has increased a little bit and took a big increase, I guess you want to say, this year
And definitely.
due to the kindergarten program.
Sure, absolutely.
No, that's,
Yeah.
There's something here.
By law, you are allowed to increase that figure by 2% without going to the community for a special vote. So 2% of that $19.6 million is the figure you see there, the $392,000. We were also allotted an adjustment for increase in healthcare costs. And we also had an adjustment for banked cap. And this was the last year we were allowed to utilize that. If we didn't utilize it in the budget, we would no longer be able to do so. By adding those figures together is how you come up with the tax levy figure in this proposed budget. Quick little look at state aid in the town of Roselle Park, which is pretty similar across the state of New Jersey. The highest amount of state aid that we received in Roselle Park was back in the year 2009-2010 when Corzine was governor. The following year, when Christie took office, he decreased state aid drastically across the state, so you see the big drop. He has, in the last 5 years, put a little of that back, slowly, but we're still not back to the figure that we received in 2009-2010. So basically, you can say that in the last 6 years, although costs keep going up, state aid has not gone up to match that. Here you see the actual figures, how the total budget has increased over the last 13 years. You see how state aid changed over the 13 years and how it dropped $1.4 million back in 2010-11 and is still not back to the $10.6 million that we received in 2009-2010. So in order to accommodate the growing costs of any school budget, that means there is a big impact on the local tax levy. The next slide gives you some idea of the impact of this budget on the local homeowner. Knowing your personal assessed value, you can look for that in the chart, get an idea of what the impact would be. Here you see homes valued between $65,000 to $95,000, and this is on the old valuation process. I know we're in the process of all being reevaluated, so you have to look at your assessed value from the past to get an idea of the increase. So yes, this budget will increase taxes for the year $300 or more dollars. Again, depending on the assessed value of your home. Want to mention, however, that there is another factor along with the individual school district budget, municipal budget, county budget that affects your tax levy. Also, the total taxable amount for the town of Roselle Park. That is also another factor that somewhat increases or decreases your tax impact. Unfortunately, the total tax value has decreased in Roselle Park every year for the last 9 years. So by that going down, that's another factor that drives up your tax levy impact. If we got more ratables in Roselle Park, just the opposite would happen. More ratables in Roselle Park would drive up that total tax value amount, and that would help to decrease our tax levy. But that hasn't happened yet. And now I'm going to turn over the presentation to the superintendent, Mr. Garrido.
Thank you everyone for coming out tonight. We appreciate your presence here. Ms. Gershel, thank you for preparing such an insightful and informative budget presentation. It is my responsibility as a superintendent to let you know, to inform you of the impact that the result of this budget, approval or disapproval, will have on the district. One of the things that we are proud of, we're proud of everything here, but we always look to have programs that are effective, that are helpful to the students. And by that, I mean remedial programs that help the most needy students, as well as academic programs that help the students with test prep, that help students enhance their daily learning. So it could be after-school programs, it could be before-school programs, it could be programs that are held during the school day, as well as sports programs. We want to educate, and we're very proud of having an education that really that impacts the whole student, whether it's athletic, academic, arts, and so forth. So we're very proud of that. The impact of this budget approval is to maintain what we already have, and the students are definitely being impacted by that. Maintain the current class sizes. As Ms. Gershel said, most of the budget is taken up by salaries and benefits. If we have to cut teachers because of not approving this budget, and that most likely will be an impact, our class sizes in some of the grade levels in some of the schools can go up above 30 students. We already have 23, 24, 25 students in some of the classes. The impact can be devastating for some of the students, and especially the lower grades. There are two factors that impact student learning the most. Number one is an effective teacher. Number two is class size. That has been researched, we know that. So class sizes will definitely be impacted. We will continue full-day kindergarten. We're very proud that we're able to have a full-day kindergarten. Why? Because our children benefit from it. How? The research is out there. The more experiences our 5-year-olds have in kindergarten, their experiences academically and socially increase. That is a research-based, is a given. As a matter of fact, I visited one of the elementary schools and spoke to one of the kindergarten teachers. She mentioned to me, from my experiences, from the half-day kindergarten to full-day kindergarten, our kindergarten students are performing right now 3 months ahead of where they were a year ago. So definitely, full-day kindergarten is definitely an impact. Personalized learning opportunities. As we move into the 21st century, learning has moved to the 21st century. The way that children learn, even 10 years ago, just 10 years ago, is way different than they are learning now. They need to have more technology so they can be engaged. That is, again, is research-based. Children are learning differently now. So by that, I mean interactive technology devices, one-on-one, where students can possibly receive a tablet or a small computer where they can do work in the classroom, personalized work. Interactive boards. There are such great technology devices out there where children can be engaged and can learn interactively. They go up to the board, they're able to drag, they're able to pull, they're able to do so many things. The same thing as 3D printers that they have now. So many things. Universities are using 3D printers in the medical schools. This is something that we would like our children to have so they are better prepared for this technological world that they are going to enter in the next few years. K-8 literacy textbooks. We just adopted a brand new balanced literacy curriculum throughout the district for K through 8th grade. And it's working out well. Why? Because again, it's research-based, it's best practices, and the children are engaged and motivated to read. And classroom furniture. If you go into any of our buildings are aging, our furniture is aging. Some of the furniture does not fit with some of the programs that we have now. The STEM programs, robotics, and things such as that. So these are some of the things that we are looking at to purchase with the approval of this budget. We're not just going to take the money and say, we're raising salaries, we're doing all of these things. We are making sure that any money that is brought into the district is being spent responsibly. And the board knows that. The board knows that we need to be responsible in expenditure. What is the impact of disapproval of the budget? Well, no new technology opportunities, so that means that our students will not be prepared as they move on to higher education. Reduction of staff, possibly 1 per grade level, meaning higher class sizes. Support staff will be cut. Okay? Support staff is very important for some of our students here. They may need one-on-one type of instruction with a support staff in the classroom. No full-day kindergarten. If our students right now are 3 months ahead of last year when they have 10, just think, we're going to regress all the hard work that we have put in. And this is going to pay off quite a bit in the next few years with student achievement. Programs will be cut, possibly athletic programs, possibly after-school programs, possibly science programs that the students benefit, or art programs that the students really enjoy. No new literacy textbooks, no new buses for transportation, no new bus for transportation, no new furniture. Okay, future plan for savings. As I just mentioned before, the board is very cognizant of being responsible. They are very actively, and they have asked me, actively pursue any type of alternative funding opportunity that's out there. Just this past year, we hired a grant writer, an educational consulting grant writing firm that are looking for different grants that we will be able to use for our educational programs. So we are actively looking for any type of alternative funding opportunity. Investigate on the facility for expansion. Why do we want to expand? We are spending, and one of the charts that Ms. Gershel showed tonight, we're spending over $1.3 million in students that go out of district, in tuition and in transportation. If we're able to expand our facilities here, we'll be able to bring those students back at a lower cost. So it makes sense. We're looking at that as well. Reduction of transportation costs goes hand in hand with students that are out of district. It's costing us over $1.3 million a year. It's a lot of money that should be used here in district. And explore more efficient use of facilities. As Gershel mentioned before, some of you were here when Kara and Rubino came in and made a presentation. The board has decided to bring them in so they can do a feasibility study of all of our facilities to see where we most efficiently we can operate this district. And that is something that I know will be very beneficial to us. And as we go along with this process, we would certainly inform the public as well. Well, that will be the impact of the approval or disapproval of our budget. I know there are some concerns. Whenever taxes go up, we know, we get that. But if we want to make sure that our students continue to receive the quality education, and we can enhance our programs to make sure that they are technologically prepared, that they're getting the best education possible, we need to make sure that this budget is approved and moves forward. So I thank you for listening. Once again, I thank Ms. Gershel for such an informative presentation of the budget. And I thank the board members who are here for coming out in support of us. So now what we will do is we will take any questions from the public. Again, as Mr. Harm said, we may not have the answers tonight, but we will certainly take in any consideration that anyone has. So once again, thank you for coming out, and we'll take questions. If you want to come up to the microphone, please do.
It's on television.
Thank you. Jacob McGill, 612 Sherwood Avenue, Roselle Park. Ladies and gentlemen of the audience, viewing audience, members of the board, Mrs. Gershel, Mr. Garrido, good evening. You have a grant writer. Can you share the grant writer with the borough? Shared services?
We can investigate that thing.
Write it down so you can remember.
Ms. Gershel's writing it down, so she remembers. We can check into that, Jane, we can check that out, sure.
Absolutely.
Can you give me a figure on what it costs for health benefits for the teachers and principals and business administration? You got about 220 employees, some some part-time, some full-time.
Well, if it's $6.2 million on the, for health insurance, that doesn't cover it, yes, it does. $6.2 million, Jane.
Excuse me?
$6.2 million.
Yeah. How much per employee?
It depends on what insurance they have, depends on how many family members they have. You know, could be only one person in the family being, so it's really hard to break it down on that, but the total cost is $6.2 million.
School district offers 2 different types of insurance plans to our employees. So those 2 plans have different prices. Secondly, it depends on the individual household, whether you're a single person receiving benefits, whether you're 2 adults receiving benefits, whether you're a parent with children receiving benefits, or a complete family receiving benefits. There's 4 options, and each of those options have different prices related to them. They range from about, I want to say like $9,000, $10,000, all the way up to about $27,000. However, the staff now contributes a portion of the cost, so there is a slight deduction in that initial cost
How much,
to the district.
how much do they contribute?
Sorry to have to answer this way, but again, it varies because there is a chart of contribution values that's given to us by the state. It occurs in a 4-year phase-in. Currently, we're in year 3. Next year, Roselle Park will reach year 4. That's the full contribution amount. But it also varies, again, depending upon the type of benefits: single, parent, child, husband, wife, family. And another factor that comes into play is the amount of your salary. Someone who earns a small salary contributes a much smaller percentage. Someone with a large salary, on the other hand, could be contributing next year 35% of the cost of those benefits. So there's a lot of factors, and it varies person to person.
Can we get rid of our broker?
Why would we want to when we continually get better rates than the state health benefits plan?
Yeah, no other, do we have the same provider for health benefits?
Do we always have the same provider? No, we do not always have the same provider. We, again, every year, our broker shops us out to the health benefit market, and we receive bids from a variety of different health insurance companies. And of course, we do change occasionally when we get a better price from a different health insurance company. So we have changed in the past. We could change again in the future if that happens.
How much do you pay the broker?
We do not pay the broker anything. It's part of the fee that they receive from the company that receives the award.
You have does anyone have a platinum benefits program? Are they in?
No. No.
You know what the platinum benefits are?
Do you know what the platinum benefits are? We don't have that here.
I mentioned earlier, before this program started, the safety helmets, football helmets, for the Panthers, our football team, and for Pop Warner. I know you. But they now have a new helmet to help prevent concussions. You folks have money to pay for that? If and when it comes up.
Athletic equipment is always part of the athletic budget, so that is something that,
We don't know, like, we meet all the state requirements for it.
right.
So we don't know that we meet all the state requirements for it.
We always have athletic equipment in our budget, and we always meet state requirements for the safety needs of our...
$300 per home, that's $65,000. $339 for $75,000. $392, $85,000, and $438 for $95,000.
Yes, those were the examples we gave in the presentation.
That is correct. Thank you.
Hello, board and audience. My name is Kevin Cancino. I'm from 105 Sheridan Avenue. I saw on the board, on the projection about the special education, I saw that it went up, and then 2 years ago it went dramatically down and it's slowly getting back up there. Is that covering teachers, what they're learning, or what does that really cover?
I would, my guess is that it's more due to the program changes with the number of students going out of district in the past versus the current number going out of district. That does change year to year. That drives the cost up and down for out-of-district tuition. Part of the reason we're able to bring some of those costs down is by creating new programs for those students in our Roselle Park schools. Unfortunately, to create those new programs, there is an associated cost involved. Of course, you then have to provide services with staffing, supplies, materials, as well as facility needs. However, we always make sure that the cost is a saving. The net result is that there's a saving to the district by doing that. So just a quick example, we might be sending 3 students out of district for a total cost of $400,000. Perhaps if we create a program in district for those same 3 students, we can do so by hiring a teacher, an aide, and maybe only spending $100,000. So we carefully weigh the pros and cons, and again, our main goal is providing the best services to the students. That's number one. And if we can do that with saving money to the school district and the taxpayers, that's a win-win situation.
Also on there, it said that the K through 8th grade are getting new textbooks. Is that a physical copy of a textbook, or will that be electronically?
That is a physical. The literacy program that we have now, it's hard copies that they get. It's novels and things such as that. Every 5 years we have to have what is called a cycle of textbook cycle. So we need to look at it. We're hoping, however, we can't do it now because we don't have the technology or the one-on-one device, that we will start moving from print to digital. So, and that would save us money because digital, in the long run, will be less than replacing textbooks every 5 years. So we're looking into that as well.
Also, with the new furniture with that as well, what does that entitle and include?
Yeah, there's some furniture that's really in very bad shape that needs to be replaced. Also, as you know, we have expanded our STEM program, which is a science, technology, math, engineering, and those type of programs require special furniture so we can run the program. With technology now as well, some of the furniture is different for the library, for one, for the media centers, for one. So we're not talking about all furniture being replaced, furniture that needs to be replaced because it's in very poor condition, and also furniture that's needed for technology or for different programs that we have.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Are there any more copies of that I can refer to? Thank you. Saul Cureton, 150 Berwyn Street. In reviewing I think I asked this before, but I didn't have the figures before me, so the jump for the health and dental insurance, was a significant jump, right? About $300,000, right? From last year to this year. Right.
I mentioned that our initial estimate estimate from the broker that assists me putting the budget together. That initial increase was given to me at 12%. So that's the figure I utilize in preparing the budget.
But in review, and here's where my question was. In 13-14, it was about almost $600,000.
Because if you remember, which it's easier for me to remember because this is my job, last year, this time, the broker gave us an estimate of, I think it was 17%, or 15, 17%. So last year at this time, the estimate that was coming to us from the insurance companies was much higher than what we're hearing this year. So that's one step in the positive direction. It's not as high.
Right.
We're hoping that that trend is something that continues in the future. That would be nice for all of us if the cost of our health insurance came down.
Because I guess that's where my question is, because between 12 and 13, it was, not that that's nothing, but it was $140,000, and then these significant jumps. I guess, is the broker, is there any forecast as to, is this something that's going to be the norm now, as opposed to 100,000, 200,000, 600,000, 400,000, is this going to be the new norm?
There's so much going on in the health insurance world, as you know, in current events, that it's a little bit hard to read what the new laws are going to have as an impact on the industry. Hopefully, this is a trend, that will continue.
The decrease, not the double-digit increase.
Yeah, it's a decrease. Yeah.
And then again, my other question is, are these benefits, just for the sake of clarification, are they contractual or are they mandated? Or are they both?
Well, part of you well know, health insurance is now mandated by law for employers to give to their employees under certain conditions, but it's also partially contractual, negotiated. There is language in the teacher's contract that does speak to the area of health benefits. So we do have certain limitations on what we can do with changes to our health benefits. Basically, the current contract says we can change health insurance companies as long as we ensure that they're getting equal or better benefits. We cannot decrease the type of service provided to.
Okay, and then along with that, are the contributions contractual, or are those?
That's a state law.
So that's a state mandate. So to clarify, the type of insurance is contractual. Within the contract, it states must be of equal or better than present.
Right, so you
But
can
the
get company A,
Right.
company B, as long as they're providing the same type of benefits, you can go with whatever company is giving you the better price. It's like going out to bid.
So that the insurance is contractual, but the contributions are state regulated or mandated. And there's no, again, thinking outside the box, there's no way to make that contractual, or does the state mandate prohibit
Well, when you
that?
go to negotiate,
Like, could you, and again, without saying yes or no, is it possible to, in a contract, say, above what is being paid now, what is being contributed now by the state, we would ask that you contribute 0.1%?
Can we?
Can you?
You can ask anything you want to
yeah,
at negotiations.
I don't know.
But I want to,
You absolutely
Right,
can
okay.
ask. Yes.
I'm not asking if it's been asked, I'm asking if it
No,
can.
you
No.
can ask. You can ask anything you want to.
Thank you. And then in discussing, I guess, the unrestricted miscellaneous and then the other restricted miscellaneous. So the rental facilities, Other restricted. It went, I guess that, the unrestricted almost was cut by half. And it says interest on investment and the gate receipts. So I guess the interest rate was terrible.
Very good.
Um,
Able to figure that one out.
And I guess the gate receipts are the gate receipts. And the other restricted rental facilities, so there's facilities within the district. And now I guess this, which will now be included in that miscellaneous revenue. And the residency fines and other legal reimbursements. I understand the residency fines, and though it is unfair to the student because they're underage, I guess whenever it's found to be out of district, they either pay a fine or, but what is the other legal reimbursements? Besides other legal reimbursements. If you don't know now, maybe later or somewhere.
And a possible example that comes to mind, there's some vandalism to one of our buildings.
Okay.
The person, of course, the police get involved, and, the end result is that guilty party must legally reimburse the district for the cost of cleaning up or repairing the results of that vandalism. That's one example that comes to mind. Occasionally, there are things that come out of court
Okay.
where a court decision states that they must legally reimburse the school district.
All right. And in line with that, and in line with shared services, I don't know if it was, I said it on the record or after the meeting, but there was, my recollection is there's actually a borough ordinance that goes after landlords or found to have housed people who illegally visited the schools, and I don't know if the district has talked with the borough because I don't know who keeps that money. I don't know if the borough keeps those funds or if they're distributed between themselves and the borough. And I don't know how intense they followed up on that ordinance, but that could be another way to get revenue and to find people. Because I guess it doesn't go after the people, it goes after the landlord. And then the other thing is, so just to make sure, and if you could, can you bring up this again?
Bring up that slide.
Yeah, the one that has the 14, 15, 15, 16. It's pretty way back. That one. Okay.
This?
Yes. All things equal. So let's say this is next year. And just for the sake of discussion, these are the figures. That 219, that adjusted bank cap, would not be there if this were next year.
Correct.
So the decision would be either put that up for a vote or remove that amount through staff and everything from the district. Because of that, it's no longer there. It will no longer be available. We have never gone under 2%. We will never go under 2% in the near future. So that's a legitimate concern for coming years. That amount, and that's I think a third or a little less than half of what was spent last year, because last year was about 790,000, I think. I know it was significant. But it was more than that. And that's it. That's all that's left. So that amount will no longer, if all things equal, costs and everything, that will need to be made up or taken away. And people need to be aware of that. We're at that point.
Every year is a challenge, and that's one of the reasons why the board is looking into things like the facilities efficiency plan to see if there are ways that we can save money that we haven't thought of, because we too are recognizing the exact same things that you're saying right now, that it could possibly get more and more difficult every year to come up with a sound budget, assuming that the state government does not increase state aid in the future. That's always a possibility that I would like to see happen.
And that's my next question, because then you have your state aid history, and for about 4 years, it stayed pretty much plateaued like it is now, and then it jumped, and then it really jumped in 2009 by $1.5 million, and then I think it went down, and now for the past 4 years, it's been at that stable level, so
Correct.
I guess it's anticipated unless there's an election coming up,
Right. So,
that it's going to stay the same. And then also to reiterate the net valuation. This most likely, that amount, that increase would most likely be affected with the reval because, as you said, the net valuation would be adjusted to become to a more accurate gauge. And so then maybe these increases might be affected in a positive way where they'll become less because, as you said, valuation and ratables.
unless the community sees some new businesses, other revenue come into the community that would help that figure as well.
I think that was about it for my question, so I thank you very much.
Thank you.
Welcome, thank you.
Pam Reynosa, 335 Pershing Avenue. I just have a question. You said that you're planning to bring special ed students back to district and that you're planning to build facilities for them. Do you have actual plans for the facilities, and do you have any idea which percentage of the students we'd be bringing back?
We're exploring at this point. As you know, the facilities around, I'm sorry.
We're exploring at this time. As you know, the facilities around town are very limited, but we are exploring any options that we can find. But at this point, we have no definite plan in terms of facility. We are exploring them.
Okay, so that potential savings is just future savings.
Future,
it's hoped
exactly.
for, and
Yes.
it's not actually
Correct.
planned.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Seeing that there's no further questions, I think on behalf of the board and the administration, I'd like to thank you for coming this evening, and we appreciate your input, and the board will take it all into consideration. Again, the official public hearing will be Tuesday evening, this Tuesday evening, April 28th, and it will be at the Roselle Park Middle School. And the meeting should begin at approximately 7 p.m. Thank you.